Welcome to the latest US2U Consulting Podcast. My name's Rachel Blackburn. I'm the founder and director of US2U Consulting, and it's great to be able to share with you today my top 30 tips when it comes to developing personal resilience. As you'll be aware, everything we do at US2U Consulting is about helping to make a positive difference, and I do hope that today you're going to find it really interesting to reflect in terms of these different top tips and take away the ones that are relevant for you so you can help yourself, help maybe some of your colleagues, etc. On this journey. This podcast is the latest in the series. You may have seen some of our previous podcasts, which have been about mental health at work, developing great sales performance, and career progression and outplacement. So let's think a bit about developing personal resilience. This is something which I put together actually beginning of 2020, so nothing actually directly linked to the pandemic. I was noticing that through a lot of executive coaching, management coaching I was doing, that this was increasingly a priority need for people I was working with. And so I put together these 30 top tips, and so I do hope you'll find a pick and mix approach is really helpful for you. I guess a good starting point when it comes to developing personal resilience is what actually is resilience? What do we mean by it? So if you think in terms of my research, it's all about we need to make sure that we have the ability to bounce back and adapt when we're faced with difficult or stressful situations. And I guess one thing that's guaranteed is in the real world, we are all going to be faced with difficult, stressful situations. So that bounce back ability is really key, really important. That's important to us as human beings, and also when it comes to performance at work, making sure we've got that bounce back ability, clearly really critical to make sure we're able to give our best in terms of our day-to-day performance. We know that resilient people, and clearly I'm not standing myself up here to say, hey, look at me, everything's perfect, my life is perfect. However, I think we recognise if we can actually develop and utilise some of these different strategies, it means that we can be seen as resilient people. And resilient people don't dwell on failures and difficulties. Then we have to recognise we're people who can learn and reflect from mistakes and move forward rather than being held back. So let's get into the 30 top tips. And always interesting to get some feedback from you. So do get in touch and let me know which are your preferred top tips, the strategies that you think can work for you. As always, get in touch with me at rachelb@us2uconsulting.com. That's Rachel, RACHELB @US2U Consulting.com. So tip number 1 is to deal with any difficult or stressful situation in an assertive fashion rather than being too aggressive or too passive. Now, there's lots of stuff you can look into around assertiveness. At US2U Consulting, we're really advocating the 4-step to assertiveness. Our 4-step assertiveness process is quite clear in terms of step number 1, if you're facing a difficult situation, is to communicate to the other person. In terms of number 1, showing that you understand their point of view. You're trying to put yourself in their shoes, showing some empathy. Number 2, saying how you feel about the situation, whether you feel concerned, frustrated, disappointed, making sure you put that over. Number 3 is proposing a course of action. What do you want the person to do next as a next step? And number 4 is trying to get agreement from the other person in terms of getting to say, yes, that's fair enough. So does that sound fair enough? Can you live with that? Can we agree that's the best course of action? So actually following that 4-step assertiveness process can be really helpful, both in terms of verbal communication and written communication when you're faced with a difficult, stressful situation. Step number 2 is around using relaxation techniques, making sure we're actually taking enough time to do whatever helps us to relax, whether it's walking, having a bath, listening to music, etc. Making sure that you know what helps you to relax and making sure you spend some time every day doing that particular activity is a great way to keep the resilience levels really high. Number 3, making sure that we're leading a healthy lifestyle So making sure that we're eating nutritious food and we are taking regular exercise to make sure we are being the best version of ourselves every day. Number 4 is to reflect as to how your behaviour compares to others. Have you got a great role model? I think one of the things that certainly I reflect on when the going gets tough is thinking about different role models, thinking what would that person do in this difficult, stressful situation? How could you behave in the same way as somebody who you respect and admire would behave? That's always a useful strategy, just to kind of take some energy and get some thinking and some learning from a good role model. Number 5, getting enough sleep and relaxation. Sleep and relaxation is so important to make sure they've got time and opportunity to disconnect and completely recharge. So making sure that no matter how busy we get, there's still time in our diaries to be able to make sure we're getting enough sleep and relaxation. Number 6, if someone criticises you, avoid getting defensive. I know it's easy to say don't get defensive, but if somebody does criticise us, the key thing to do is to say, can you give me an example of what you've actually seen, what behaviour I've displayed? And if we get an example, then maybe sometimes there might be something in there we can learn from and we can actually adapt our behaviour rather than just getting annoyed, getting defensive, which is going to make the situation escalate. Number 7, every time you say something negative about yourself, balance it by saying something positive. Focus on strengths and good points. I find quite often I'm working with people who, quite often we can think about the things we did wrong, the time we made an error, the time we missed a bit, when actually that can knock our confidence and our resilience. So to focus on strengths, we're all good at certain things. Let's focus on those and our good points. That can be a great way to actually see ourselves through a difficult, stressful situation. Number 8, ask for support from somebody you trust to help you, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a good line manager, making sure you've got great support around you, really important. Number 9, manage emotional control and use your emotions to inspire people. For example, I think a lot of people can get very passionate in work situations, for example, and sometimes the passion to get things right and deliver great service can overspill into some negative behaviours sometimes. Let's use that energy to create passion and use it in a positive way to actually influence difficult situations. So keeping that emotions under check. Number 10, know what situations actually cause a strong reaction in you. Are there certain trigger situations or trigger words where you know you have a reaction and you start to find your stress levels rising? Know what those situations are, notice any symptoms and start to manage those reactions early. For example, when you get to being frustrated before you become really angry. So just recognising what triggers are for you. Number 11, manage any negative self-talk. I think all of us can have negative noises come into our minds saying, I can't do this, you might fail, it might be a terrible day, etc. So every time you've got some negative self-talk in your head, it's about flipping it into the positive. If you've got a noise in your head saying, I can't do this, flip it to, I can do this, and it will be fine. So making sure you're replacing any negative self-talk with positive words and phrases in your mind, and almost kind of saying those to yourselves or saying them out loud if necessary. That can be really helpful. Number 12, reframe your mindset. When you see difficulties in your life, and let's face it, we'll have difficulties, rather than seeing it as a difficulty, see it as a challenge, something which, rather than being a negative event, can be a positive opportunity. So recognising that benefit of seeing it as an opportunity. Number 13, have SMART goals. SMART, the specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and timed. Making sure you've got SMART goals for home and for work. So you've got to focus and have a desire to achieve these goals. So we know often at work we're meant to have SMART goals, which is great, But think about having them for home life as well. What is it you really want to be achieving over the next month, 2 months, 3 months, etc. So you can really focus on putting your energy into achieving those key things. Number 14, focus on things that you can control and influence. Recognise there are loads of things that you can't control, things you can't control, I can't control. And spend less time worrying about things you can't control, again focusing energy on things that you can, where you can actually make that positive difference. Number 15, never think of yourself as a victim in a situation. If things are going wrong around you, use your energy to think about what you can influence, but try not to think of yourself as a victim where people are taking advantage of you or doing bad things to you, trying to see you at the positive and seeing what you can influence. Number 16, aim to take an optimistic rather than pessimistic approach. So always looking for, rather than the glass of water, I think my glass of water is more than half full or half empty, but rather than look at the glass of water half empty, what can we do to look at it half full and see the positive opportunities in any difficult situation? Number 17, compartmentalise any setbacks. So for example, if you do get negative feedback about one aspect of your work or performance, recognise there are other aspects you do really well. So don't dwell on that maybe 20% of things where you know you need to improve. Think about maybe the 80% of things which you do really brilliantly and make sure you take energy from that. Number 18, maintain a positive image of the future and a positive outlook. So make sure we're looking for the good things coming up on the horizon, making sure you've got good things in your diary to look forward to. Number 19, demonstrate empathy and look at difficult situations from the other person's point of view. So when you get frustrated with somebody because maybe they've let you down or they haven't delivered what it is you need to get from them, maybe try and put yourselves in their shoes for a moment. Try and look at the world from their point of view. Maybe they've got lots of difficulties and stressful situations and things going on with them. And once you look at the world from that angle, it can make you feel differently about the situation and therefore suggest ways that you might be able to work together better to actually achieve a positive outcome. Number 20, remember that everyone experiences bad days. No matter how brilliant people's life may look on Instagram or other bits of social media, everybody has difficult days, bad days. So if you're having one of those, recognising in the course of a year you're going to get so many, this is one of those. Recognise that you choose how to respond to any event. And I find this one quite challenging sometimes because I think it's true when you think about it. No one can make you angry. If you get angry or frustrated or upset, nobody can make you do that. It's your reaction to a given situation. So recognising that you should be in control of those different emotions. Number 22. Maintain perspective. Whilst the situation that you're in at a time, any moment in time, might feel overwhelming, in the long term, it might not make so much difference. So on a given day, something can feel really bad and really stressful. In the scheme of the week, of the month, of your life, it might not be as serious as it appears at first glance. So taking that perspective is always a useful thing to do. Number 23, focus on your strengths and the positive things in your life to build self-confidence. So think about every day certain positive things happen. So focus on those to actually build up confidence. 24, develop strong relationships with colleagues and friends where you can offer each other mutual support. Make sure you surround yourself with positive people who give you energy. And try and make sure you're an energy giver, not an energy zapper yourself, I think is always a good thing in there. So those strong relationships, always really key. 25, be flexible. Things will often change and we have to adapt to new plans. So sometimes one of the reasons we can feel frustrated or feel our resilience being knocked or find a situation difficult and stressful is because there's a change, whether it's a change at home or a change at work, a change in process, a restructuring, a reorganisation, whatever it might be. So I think if we can get a flexible mindset of being open to the new structures, processes, etc. and possibilities, then it helps us adapt to new plans, seeing the positive in those things rather than just seeing the resistance that you want to hold on to the old methods and the old ways. Number 26, take a proactive approach to lifelong learning, recognising that we all need to develop new skills and new techniques as the world of work and at home changes. What new skills do you need to make sure you become more competent and more confident? And it's those two key things, being competent and confident, that are so important. So making sure we're learning new things every day. And with the internet and so on, no excuse that we can't learn new things. Watch a new YouTube video, anything just to learn a new skill, how to do something. 27, don't panic. Whatever's happened, take a deep breath in stressful situations and think through the options of what you can do next. Sometimes actually grabbing a piece of paper and just writing down what are the options. Are there 2, 3, 4 different options of things that you could do in a given situation? That means that you take a few minutes out to just be calm and just be rational and think rather than just panicking. 28, take a systematic approach to solving problems, looking at the advantages and disadvantages of each course of action. So if you're going to map out different courses of actions, maybe do like the pros and cons list. Do something quite analytical so that you can sort of see the wood for the trees in terms of your decision-making options of what you are going to do next. Number 29, aim to have strategies for dealing with difficult situations which are likely to happen. Sometimes we can anticipate that things might go wrong. We can see there's a risk there that a difficult or stressful situation might arise. If we think there's a chance that might happen, well, let's not just wait till we get there. Let's start to think about how we're going to cope, what we're going to do if that situation does occur. So we've already got strategies ready proactively to be able to deal with those particular things. And number 30, this is something which a lot of people I've worked with have found really useful in terms of listing good things that have happened each day to focus on the positives. So maybe it is about keeping a journal, a notebook, a diary of maybe 1, 2, 3 good things that have happened every day. And if you're finding you have trouble sleeping, getting to sleep, to be able to do that at the end of the day, to reflect on the positives so that you've got positive thoughts going round in your mind before you go to sleep, is more likely to give you a great chance of having a good night's sleep. So that sums up the 30 top tips from my research in terms of developing personal resilience. Do hope you found them useful. Do maybe prioritise the top 1, 2, 3 things that you can take away. Do share those if you'd like to by giving me some feedback. Rachel B at US2U Do actually subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do actually follow us on Twitter, and we look forward to seeing you next time.